Hello, my friends. It's Sam here today, and today I thought it would be fun to go through my palettes, and I saw this tag kind of flowing around of if I could only keep one palette of each brand that I have. So I decided I was going to do that for fun. So if you're interested in seeing what I would keep, if I could only keep one, continue watching. If you're new to my channel, hi, my name is Sam. I'm a makeup enthusiast. Makeup is my therapy. And if you feel the same way, be sure to hit the subscribe button so you can come back and see more content with me. So let's get started. I will say that I am a very loyal person. When I'm looking at all of the palettes that I have and I was pulling them out, I realized that there's a lot of brands that I purchased the palette, fell in love, and then continue to purchase every palette that they put out. So we have a lot to talk about here. I'm going to try not to chat too much to keep it from being, forever long, but let's get into it. The first one I'm just grabbing at random is Nabla. I actually have a ton of these cutie palettes, and I went with the nude one. Surprise, surprise. Because I did have a couple of the bigger ones and I wasn't a fan of the formula, but these little ones are really amazing. But I went with this nude one because when I was working in the office and this first came out and I purchased it, I used this every single day. And this was something that I would keep on the vanity at all times because say we were home, we were being lazy with the kids and my husband said, "Oh, let's go out for lunch." I would just take, this, rub it on my eye, do a one shadow look, and run out the door because I knew it would just give me that little extra added of polishness that I needed to get through the day. And I really like this one considering that it is a very neutral palette. The next one is Wet n Wild, the Ice Cream Bee palette. I bought this palette initially because I really wanted the Huda Meteor Retrograde palette and I didn't want to spend the money. And I thought this color story was very similar. And I love this palette. It smells like ice cream. And this palette is really, really, really good quality. It has a variety of textures in here. And I adore this palette. It's super cute. If I could only keep one Wet n Wild, this would be the one. The next one is Viseart. This is the first Viseart palette that I ever picked up, and then I went crazy and purchased a whole mess of them. Actually, just ordered another one, so I'm waiting for that to come in the mail. And this is the Viseart Bijounette. I love packaging. It's so cute. This little envelope type format, and then it has a tray to kind of protect the shadows. I like that. They can be popped out and rearranged or put into other palettes. Let me put it upside down. And this is what she looks like. She's beautiful. I have a gorgeous memory of using this on camera for the first time and trying it out and just falling in love. And so if I could only keep one, this would be the one. Too Faced. Too Faced. I was surprised that I still had Too Faced palettes, honestly, because I thought I decluttered most of them, but I still have this one, the pumpkin palette, and I have probably pumpkin something. But this was the, what is it? Oh, this is the pumpkin spice. I think I have the original pumpkin palette. And I love this palette color story. I feel like it is very well-rounded. It was put out for fall time palettes, but to me, honestly, there's so many cute little pastel shades in here that I can use this in the springtime. And yeah, I really love this color story more than the other ones. The next one is kind of like my favorite blue palette. It is the Ace Beauty Oceanic Palette. If I had to pick only one blue eyeshadow palette, I think this would be it. This is the original formula. I don't have the newer one, but I'm quite happy with the formula that's in this one, so I didn't feel the need to go out and repurchase the new formulated one. I just love the colors in here, and they do give us some green for variety, but they're not too many, and the shades are just very complementary to the blue one. So I really love this palette. I feel like they executed it perfectly and it doesn't need to be fixed. The next one is Colored Rain. I purchased 2 palettes at once, so technically I have 2 palettes, but uh, I don't know. I kind of was like, do I include this one or not? It's not a bad palette whatsoever. But if I had to pick between the two, this was from their Spring Botanical collection. I think I also did a video on this one. You know what? I just realized the Oceanic Palette was probably my first makeup video on YouTube because before that I did a lot of cleaning videos. So that's really funny. But this is the Colored Rain Rose Garden from their Botanical collection. This one has a little bit of darker color story, so that's why I kind of went with this one. I feel like it's a little bit more flattering to my skin tone. And this is the one that I kind of compare to the Winnie the Pooh ColourPop collab. I feel like they executed a very similar vibe with fewer shades and better quality, if I'm being completely honest. So this is a really good palette. If you're interested in Color Rain, I highly recommend it because I fell in love with the brand using this palette right here. And yeah, I think they still have it available. The next one was BH Cosmetics, and I went with the Blueberry Muffin palette. I probably would expect that most people out there have gone with the same thing. And yeah, it's a gorgeous blue palette. I did a video on this one. This was one of my first videos that actually did pretty well on YouTube. And yeah, it made me excited about playing with makeup on the internet instead of just by myself in my bedroom. And yeah, I love this palette. It's gorgeous. And before I forget to mention, I want to say that I saw Angelica Nievequist do this first, but I will find out who was the originator if it was not her and mention it in the description box below. So for Glam is a brand that I have a lot of palettes from. I actually just ordered the Frosted Flakes one. I tried not to, and then I gave in finally. But this is the Michaela palette that they did. And this is the one I would keep. Not just because Michaela's from Massachusetts like me, but also the color story. She did an amazing job with this color story. I feel like you got lots of neutrals, you got pastels, you got jewel tones, and the shimmers in here are out of this world, very unique. And the formula of Glam Light is amazing anyway. So just the two together was magic. The next palette I want to talk about is the Alimar Cosmetics Encanto palette. I have one other Alimar palette from a BoxyCharm that's really, really good. But this color story is the color story of my dreams. It really, really is. It's beautiful. The quality is gorgeous. And you couldn't rip this from my cold, dead hands ever. The next palette is from Charlotte Tilbury. This was the first palette I tried from Charlotte Tilbury. Since then, I've purchased maybe 2 more. This is the holiday palette from maybe 2000 or 2020. I'm sorry, 2000. Maybe from 2020, I think. And I love this color story. It has the berries, it has the rosy tones, it has neutrals, and the formula is absolutely stunning. I also really like the galvanized metal of the palette itself. Adept is one of my favorite brands. I pretty much purchase every palette that they come out with. And this is the Hydrant Palette. And I feel like this is the perfect palette for me because it's grungy and bright and colorful at the same time. I love the mattes in here and the shimmers are really gorgeous. And I like the shimmers go light to dark. So you can actually, I've made looks using all shimmers and kind of using the darker ones in the outer corner and then obviously the lighter ones. I just think this is a really versatile, beautiful palette, and it's my absolute favorite Adept palette. Next is Natasha Denona. And of course, if you watched my channel long enough, you know my favorite Natasha Denona palette is the Zendo. It used to be the gold palette, but this one just blew me out of the water. I feel like it's very beautiful and sophisticated and colorful all at the same time. I love the formula in here. It doesn't have the metallic glitter that some of the other palettes have, but I'm fine with that. The quality is gorgeous. I get the vibe of this palette and I just love it so much. So if I had to get rid of all my other ones, which I would never do, this would be the one I would definitely keep. Pat McGrath. I don't know what it is, but I used to hate her and now I love her. This is the palette that I think turned things around for me, falling in love with Pat McGrath, and it's the Celestial Divinity palette. It doesn't have any of her special shades in there, but there's lots of dual chromes. There's a couple mattes. It goes from light to dark. I really love this palette, and the packaging is super cool, and yet still sleek, even though it's quite large. I love this palette. I think if I was forced to get rid of any of my mothership palettes or my quads or anything like that, this would be the one that I would save in a burning fire. So let's keep it moving because there's a lot more. So the next one is Melt Cosmetics. If I could only keep one, it would be the Mariposa palette. I love the box, and this is one of the few palettes I actually keep the box. The interior has like a red velour velvet in there. It's stunning. And then this is the palette. The packaging is freaking on point. The Sacred Heart, the little puppy's face and the butterfly. And then the color story is gorgeous. This is one of my favorite color stories of all freaking time. Even if I had to go select through these palettes and pick my top ones, this would be definitely up there. I would, lay myself on the line for this one. Maybe not, but you catch my drift. This is a great palette, and I feel like it is one of the only palettes that Melt Cosmetics has done where the mattes and the shimmers are equally as good, because they're kind of hit or miss, and we all know that at this point. The next one is Isabelle Cosmetics. I actually have 3 of her palettes, and this is the Flare collection. This one I picked as my favorite one because I feel like the color story in this one just speaks to me a little bit more. She has very good quality shadows. It's an indie brand based out of Puerto Rico. And yeah, I love this palette. There's pretty much all dual chromes in here, and they're stunning. And if I could only keep one, this would be the one. I have bajillion ColourPop palettes. And if you ask me which one is my favorite one, every day will be a different 100%. Part of me right now is torn because I want to reach for my Avatar palette, but I'm going to stick with the choice that I already made when I pulled these, and that is the Gimme Butterflies from the Butterfly collection. This was one that I find that I actually reach for a decent amount, surprisingly. I know it doesn't look like it from the pans, but I actually, every spring, summer, I pull this palette out since it's come out the last maybe 2 or 3 years. I always use this palette. I love the pinks in here. I don't actually wear pink shadow very much, but when I do, this is the one that I reach for. Now, Gimme Glow. I actually have I have a couple palettes that I've made myself with just their single shadows, but I only have 2 of their pre-made palettes. This is the one that I would keep though. This is the Vivid Rose palette. I did a video on this when it first came out. And so if you're curious of any of these palettes, a lot of them I have done videos on. And so I will try to link as many as I can in the description box. But if you go to my page and then search, you'll be able to find. And this is what she looks like. It's a beautiful pink and purple palette. I feel like for right now, everybody's doing all the pinks and mauves. This is a good option. If you already have this in your collection, you can pull it out. I like the packaging. I do wish that their pans were smaller and the palettes were smaller, but I still really enjoy their formula. Unearthly Cosmetics. This is a brand that I just started to try at the end of 2021, and I've quickly fallen in love with. The first palette that I really use from them is this one. It's called the Fall Magic palette, and I purchased quite a few, maybe like 3 or 4 since this palette. But this color story really is the one that speaks to me the most. It has neutrals, it has color, it's grungy. It pretty much is my vibe. I love palettes that have color, that are deep, and also have some neutrals in there. And this is pretty much it. And I love this palette. I love when brands have sleeves for their palettes. That's like one of my favorite things. I feel like it's just an added touch. The next one is Dose of Colors. I had picked the Cutting Edge. I'm telling you guys, I did not realize I had this many palettes, like multitudes of repeat. I'm a repeat offender in a lot of these brands. I didn't realize. But Dose of Color, the Cutting Edge palette. This is a beautiful fall time palette, but it's also in general just one of my favorite color stories. I love, again, a grungy green neutral color story, and this is exactly that. And Dose of Color quality shadows are phenomenal. They're one of my favorite formulas of all time. So this is a great, great palette. Next is Sigma. I have two Sigma palettes. This is the one that I like the best. Sigma is not my favorite formula, so I'm not like super excited to purchase more palettes from them. But this was the one that I tried that I actually did like. I have the Enchanted one, which is very pretty color story, but I find like the formula is not my favorite. This one, though, is a lot better in quality. And the color story, again, is more like me. You're going to see definite trend looking at all these palettes. There's green, neutrals, and color. The packaging is also really cute with this like zebra tiger stripe situation. It's very soft and pretty. Then we have used to be Muse Beauty. I forget what it's called. Kaliv Beauty or something like that now. But this is their Van Gogh palette. Again, neutrals with color, grungy. Yeah, I know who I am. It's really ridiculous. The quality of this brand's shadows is phenomenal though. Like a really, really top tier. Then for Anastasia Beverly Hills, you know, part of me wanted to go with a grungy palette. I wanted to pick the Subculture, then I wanted to pick the Prism. But then I was like, no, which is the one that I reach for all the time? And it is the Norvina one. This is just like the perfect springtime palette. I always pull this one out in the summer and the spring. So I figured since it is springtime, this is the one. This is the one. And I have so many grungy color ways here that I don't need another one. So this would be the one that I would pick. Violet Voss. I have a new one that I haven't played with yet, so I didn't really consider it in this whole situation right now because I wanted to keep it fair to products that I've actually played with at least once. So this is the Violet Voss See You Later palette. They come up with a summer one every year. The first one I got was the Flamingo, and then I got this one last year. And this is what she looks like. Really beautiful, colorful, a little bit more jewel tone than the Flamingo, which was more pastel. The quality is really, really pretty in here, and the color story is gorgeous. Like this color BRB is really unique in that it's like a dual chrome, which you don't always see from like a brand that's sold at Sephora. And it just looks really, really pretty. So I love this palette. Primary reason for picking this palette up, honest to God, is this orange shade. I have a problem where I do that. I'm like, it has an orange. I'm going to buy it. All right, next one is Juvia's Place. I almost picked the Wahala palette just because, or the Wahala 2 is the one that I have, just because the variety of shades that are in there. But if I was being really honest with myself, the one that is my absolute favorite and the color story that I think is the most unique would be the Tribe palette. And that's why I love this one. This one is my favorite one from Juvia's Place. And so even though I would like to take something that has more variety, if I was being truthful to what I would miss the most, it would be this palette. The color story is just absolutely beautiful. Like I love this like dirty, like olivey green brown color. It's like a khaki meets olive. It's just beautiful. And yeah, all the shimmers are gorgeous in here. I think this color story really stands the test of time as well. So this would be that one. Uden's Eye. Uden's Eye is not one of my favorite brands. And I always feel guilty saying that on camera because I know a lot of you love Uden's Eye. But it's just not one of my favorite formulas. But I do have actually like I think I have like 5 or 6 palettes from Huda. I don't know why I keep buying it. I keep getting sucked into the hype. I need to stop that. But if I had to pick one, it would be the Annette's, the Giant Wolves Annette Makeup Corner collab. The color story is most of what I like. It's jewel tones. It has grunginess to it. It has a couple neutrals in there. Has lots of beautiful special shades. The packaging, they always kill it. They always kill it with the packaging. They do the sleeves, which is one of my favorite things. And yeah, this will be the one. Now we're going to talk about Huda Beauty. I love their palettes, a lot of their palettes, even some of their 9-pen palettes. And I know that that's like an unpopular opinion. I don't think that they do every palette phenomenal. I've had some duds from them, but some are just super good. And so the one that I picked, because honest to God, I think this is my favorite one from them. It used to be the Meteor Retrograde, but it is the Naughty palette. If I'm going to go for a rosy tone, a mauve tone, a neutral tone palette, I'm going to pick this over the Patrick Top every day. I'm going to pick this over the Natasha Denona Retro every day. The variety of textures in here and shades, you can't beat it. So now we're at the last 3. Glam. I actually surprisingly have a lot of palettes from Glam because I really love their like shimmer formula. They have a couple different shimmer formulas, but they have one in particular that's really kind of like a super shock formula, and it's just sparkly and magnificent. And the palettes are so cheap that it's worth picking them up for that. So, but this one, I actually think all the shades in the palette is beautiful and all of them perform top notch. And it is the Glam Deep Feelings. And this is what she looks like. If you're looking for a cool toned smoky eyeshadow and you don't wear it very much, so you don't want to spend a lot of money, I would get this one. The black in here is phenomenal. Every shade in this palette works. And it is very inexpensive. It's gorgeous. If I didn't know this was Glam, I would think it was a higher end brand. Okay, so Makeup Revolution, iHeart Revolution, Revolution Pro, Planet Revolution, XX Revolution, all the different revolutions. I maybe have like maybe 4 or 5 between all of those. I went through all my collection, and the one that I would pick is really my favorite one. I used to use the heck out of this, even with still having high-end products in my drawer, is this one called Night and Day. I love this. This is a dupe for Pat McGrath, and I purchased this because I really like the color story. And then I saw Annette. Was it Annette? Annette. Yes, but it's not Annette's Makeup Corner. Forget her name. Oh my goodness. The cute little pixie haircut. When I link, I'll mention her channel down in the description box below because I do want to give her credit. She did a look with the original Pat McGrath palette of this. And I was sitting at home at night playing with makeup, 10 o'clock at night, watching her video and following along to the tutorial using this palette. And this palette performed. I felt like my look looked so good and it looked so similar to hers. I was very like excited, and I began to obsess with this palette and use it all of the time because it is really that good. The Bake formula from Revolution is amazing. There's not a shade in this palette that I do not like. They don't do a lot of things right with any of their brands, but this palette, they do get it right. Save the best for last, right? The last one is Beauty Bay. This is one of my favorite brands, and they're very affordable, and it's the Wilderness palette. I don't think the packaging is that special. I really wish they would do a little something more with the packaging, but the color story, again, I'm sure all of you guys are yawning right now, or you've already left because it's the same palette hundreds of times over. But it is true. It's like neutrals with color. It has grunginess. It goes from light to dark. It's really a well-rounded palette, and I absolutely love it. And Yeah, I'm looking around to see if I missed anything. And you know what I did? I missed one. All right. I missed one because I was having a hard time deciding, and then I just left them laying on my bed. I walked away. I said I can't choose, but I have to. So this is the Kaleidos Escape Pod. It was hard choice between this one and the Angelica Nyquist collab because I love the grungy jewel tones in that one. But to be honest, the fact that all the shimmer shades in there are pretty much toppers is what made that one below this one. And this is what the inside looks like. These shimmer shades have a little bit more base to them, so they can just be used as lid shades. And I really do love their matte formula, and I think all those colors are gorgeous. This is an awesome summertime palette, and I love it. I love their packaging. It's like a love-hate situation. I love how pretty and bulky it is, but I hate how bulky it is at the same time. But that is officially all the palettes. If I could only keep one from each brand, that's what I would keep. It's ridiculous to me that I have been this loyal to so many brands, but I love eyeshadow and I love finding a good formula. And when I find one, I want it all. It's like when you find those perfect pair of jeans, you want to get it in every color, right? So that's pretty much what I've done with eyeshadow. If you like this video, thank you. Give it a thumbs up. I want to say thank you and that I appreciate you spending this much time with me, hanging out, talking about eyeshadow. Let me know, what are the palettes that stood out to you? Are you sick and tired of my grungy eyeshadow palette? And until next time, love you guys. Bye.